Welcome everybody to another episode of our comprehensive training series called SEP Knowledge Booster. For this video I have the pleasure to hand over to you today's presenter Klaus, who will talk about the next hot topic with the SEP Sesam backup software. 3, 2, 1, launch!
Yeah, hi everybody. And I have the pleasure to talk about this really cool topic of backup of OpenNebula with our backup software SEP Sesam. And I'm pretty sure that it's not well known that someone is capable of doing a OpenNebula backup, and I guess it's almost kind of a unique selling point for SEP. So let's first start with what's OpenNebula all about. So if you look at the homepage of OpenNebula, you will find this sentence, this statement and description, and it's all about cloud orchestration, VM management, VM deployment, and so OpenNebula is definitely a kind of product that's very important in bigger companies, if they have their own private clouds and so on. So OpenNebula Systems is based in Madrid. However, they are an international software company, and they are essentially active with their customers all over Europe, I would guess. Not so much in the United States, but it's well known all over Europe. And it's in fact a free and open source software, and this is one of the biggest and important differences to the biggest competitor, OpenStack. And I'm pretty sure that everybody of you have heard about OpenStack. It's a kind of buzzword or hype word familiar to everybody who is dealing with cloud and cloud orchestration. But if you look at the differences, OpenStack is a real vendor-driven effort. This means that it's a set of modules by different vendors, and it's a very complex and powerful, in fact, product based on different hypervisor. You can use it with KVM or with VMware. Everything is possible with OpenStack. However, it's a little bit complicated. With OpenNebula, it's a very user-driven and easy to manage, nice graphical user interface to manage OpenNebula. So this is important and provides the benefits: flexibility, scalability, interoperability. I would say also usability is a benefit of OpenNebula. Now, what's in it there for SEP? What are the benefits if you use SEP for backup software? First of all, of course, our OpenNebula specific agent using the OpenNebula APIs for doing a backup. Then our comfortable restore usability via our web UI. I will show this in the live demo later on, and also the powerful single file restore. So in case you need a single file, you don't have to restore 2 terabyte virtual machine or something like that. We will talk about this later on in a second a little bit. The product overall, our backup software SEP Sesam, is a very flexible product with lots of interfaces. You have the REST API, the CLI, and lots of other interfaces. There's a separate YouTube video on these interfaces you can find in our playlist, the SEP Knowledge Booster playlist. Yes, and then we have the online documentation, and all our customers are really satisfied with our online wiki. You will find all the technical details in a very structured way. And if you find any problems that you need help with our product, then use our support. I know my colleagues on the next level above me, and they are very competent, I can promise you, because backup has a lot of interfaces to other products like server, storage, network, NAS, SAN, hypervisor, databases, applications, and so really they are very competent in all these products and can help you with whatever problem you might have in your environment. Yeah, then the product itself, it's flexible for the market, from the smallest customer to the biggest customer with hundreds of parallel backups, and we have a flexible pricing from the small to the big price and the big customer. And you are completely future proof with our software because we have a really broad support matrix and support all and every environment with online agents. It's a software made in Germany, and as you might know, Germany is one of the countries with the most restrictive data protection regulations, so it helps in terms of GDPR and all other compliance regulations, because we can promise you that we do not have any backdoor in our software. And then we have lots of satisfied customers, big names, and you can find them on our homepage under references, and you will find the statements, the environments, and all this kind of information. Yeah, now, how is the process for doing an OpenNebula backup? And I would say it's really a standard process. It's similar to all the other hypervisors because you always have couple of hosts, might be a single host environment, might be a clustered environment if you have several hosts, and there's always one dedicated host acting as a control server. This is similar to a vCenter in a VMware environment, or a pool master in a Citrix environment, or a REV management server in a Red Hat virtualization environment. In our case, it's the OpenNebula control server, and you have to install our client package on this control server. And this is the one where the 1D, the OpenNebula daemon is running. So it's this one is the control server. Yeah, then the process. First step, look for the virtual machine, talk to the control server, because we would like to do a backup of a specific virtual machine. We would like to trigger the snapshot, and then retrieve the snapshot from the productive storage and write the data with the backup server to the backup storage for later restore. And in the end, we remove the snapshot from the productive storage to free the space for new snapshots, and everything is in order and reset to its original state. Yeah, if it comes to backup, there are some features related or associated with the backup. First of all, we use the OpenNebula toolset for doing an online backup of the virtual machines. This is the one VM, one image tools. That's the commands we use. And even if it's based on KVM, and even you might know that that we have an KVM agent for doing KVM backup, this KVM agent is not usable in an OpenNebula configuration. What's the reason? The reason is that our KVM agent is using libvirt as an API for backup, and if the OpenNebula is installed, then this covers and occupies the libvirt interface. It's busy, and OpenNebula itself provides its own backup API, and we are using this, and that's why we use a separate agent for OpenNebula backup, even if it's KVM based. It's a little bit similar to doing a REV backup, because also with REV is KVM based, but you cannot use the KVM agent because you have to use the OVirt interface provided by REV, so it's pretty similar concept. Yeah, you can have a single node or a clustered environment with multi-nodes. We have the DRBD backend for storage, and we can do the full backup of a virtual machine. That's all you can do, because the API does not provide more functionality. However, this is enough for doing a full backup for disaster recovery. If the VM crashes somehow, you can do a restore of the virtual machine. And therefore, we do not only back up the virtual disk and the data, we also back up the config of the VM to be able to restore the complete virtual machine. And the whole backup is done on a block level. It's not based on file level. It's a block level backup And you can use our multi-streaming functionality for doing parallel backups. So for instance, you can group a backup task. You have to configure a backup task per VM, one per VM, and in a task group you can have maybe 50 tasks for 50 virtual machines, and they can all be run at the same point in time with a schedule. Well, however, you have to look at the bottlenecks. If the bandwidth is good enough for doing 50 VM backups at the same time, and if you have enough storage on your productive OpenNebula storage for all these 50 snapshots and so on. These are all the requirements you have to consider for your backup concept. And then you can use our deduplication, and especially for all the hypervisor backups. This might be very, very helpful to save backups space, to save backup storage and cost and money indeed. So just imagine you have an environment with 30 virtual machines, and all the virtual machines have the same operating system, that there are much of duplicate data, and you can use our integrated software deduplication to reduce this amount of data. If it comes to a restore, you will see the perfect usability of our web UI and our graphical user interface for configuring and so on. I will show it in a live demo in a second. You can restore the complete virtual machine, including the configuration, the virtual disks and so on, into new VM instances. And if you might know how OpenNebula works, it always creates a new VM instance, providing numbers as VM names, and creating new numbers for new instances. And as a hot topic, of course, the single file restore. The backups are mounted, the virtual disks of the VM are mounted to the backup server or to the RDS, the remote device server, our media agent. And you have to take care that the operating systems are always of the same type. So it's of no use if you have a Windows VM with an NTFS file system being mounted to a Linux machine. So the operating system have to match. Make sure that this is the case in your demo environment or productive environment. Yeah, now it's time for the live demonstration. And for this, I have already started our graphical user interface. This is our GUI, looks pretty clean and in order. So all our functionality, all the power of SEP sesam with all the databases and hypervisor and applications we support, it's all here in the main selection. And here we have the components, the disk storages, the clients we back up, the loaders and drivers and so on. After configuring the components, you configure the tasks, and over here you have all the tasks. These are the migration tasks, replication tasks for deduplicated replication to another location for disaster recovery. And you have here the backup tasks, and all the clients you would like to back up are ordered here in kind of a tree structure, and it's completely up to you to define this tree structure. Could be based on location, could be based on responsibilities, on departments, on your organizational structure somehow. In our case, it's based on functionality, which represents a little bit our support matrix. So if we look down under virtualization, we have in our environment a Citrix hypervisor, we have a Hyper-V, KVM, Oracle, Linux Virtual Manager, OpenNebula, over here Proxmox, Ref, VMware, and XCP-ng. That's all what we support with our software. Here's the OpenNebula environment, and this one is a OpenNebula hypervisor host. It's the management host, which is configured as a client in our environment. And so if you look at the properties, you can see it's a Linux environment. It's a Linux operating system running on the OpenNebula host. I guess that's pretty normal. And well, access is somehow encrypted. And well, that's the configuration of this host in our environment, so that we can configure backup tasks. However, before I show you how we configure the backup task, I would like to show you our easy web UI, how we do a restore of OpenNebula virtual machines. And we have the restore assistant. We have an icon over here. It opens our restore self-service restore assistant in our in a browser. And here you see the in this window the options you have for doing a restore. And this view depends on what kind of backups you have available. If there are KVM backups available, then you will see this option to select for restoring KVM virtual machines. If there are no KVM backups, then you would not see this. So if you have only VMware, then it would be fairly easy. Only the files and VMware, and everything else would be not visible. In our case, we have all these hypervisors. I can select OpenNebula, click on Next, and here you see the OpenNebula server. We have some virtual machines we can restore, so select just one virtual machine, click on the Next button, and here you see the available backups of this virtual machine. There are 3 available backups. We can go back a little bit in history. You see here the content of the backup. It's one save set for the configuration of the virtual machine, and it's one save set for the virtual disk. You can see the size of the configuration and the virtual disk. That's all over here. Now click on Next, and now you see the OpenNebula server. If you would have a second OpenNebula server, a second separate OpenNebula environment, you can also restore to a second OpenNebula environment. And now it's showing that this target is already existing. And if you look at the virtual machines, if you're familiar with OpenNebula a little bit, you know these kind of numbers. And the highest number is the 420. So we would like not to overwrite the 410. We restore to the 421. That's the next number. And now you see that this VM is not existing, no override problems. Click on Next, and then you have additional options. Here you have the option if you would like to start the virtual machine after restore, or you can select the data store. Normally it will always restore to the same data store as it was backed up, but you can select others, but this is definitely the default. And we have the settings over here. These are the basic settings, and you can switch to the advanced setting. And when you use the advanced setting, you will see additional options, kind of expert options I would use, which are rarely used. Here are options for the restore. You can set the log level. You can have pre and post scripting. So these are options which are not used so often. You have here additional options if you would like to restore from another media pool, because you have migrated the data from disk to tape, and now you would like to restore not from disk, you would like to restore from tape, and then you can select the media pool where to restore from. So these are kind of expert options which are visible if you select the advanced mode. So let's go back to the basic mode over here. Click on Next. Now this is the overview of the options you have set, and we can start the restore process from this web UI for this virtual machine. It has created now a restore task. We can click on this process ID. You have an overview of the restore options, and you can also show the log file in a new browser tab, and then you can have a look at the log file, what is happening with the restore currently. If we scroll down, well, it's transferring, so the restore is working. And if something goes wrong, you can always have a look fairly easy in the log files over here. If we refresh, you see it's working, close pipe, so we are almost done, I would say. Now let's run the restore, and during this time I will show you the restore task. Over here we have the job states, we have the restores. Here you see, oh, now it's already through, successful. That's the restore we have done currently, at this time. That's our restore. And I wanted to show you how to do a single file restore with OpenNebula. If we click on this plus sign, you can see which backup tasks are configured. So for this virtual machine and for this virtual machine, there are backup tasks and there are backups available. If you click on results, you can see that there are some backups available, and we have done a restore actually from the second one over here. And if you would like to do a single file restore, well, let's select this one and use our restore wizard over here, this icon. Now it's pre-selected, this task. Click on next. You see that there are 2 backups available, and here you see the mount virtual disk. And with this you can mount the virtual disk and browse for single file restore in the virtual disk. Now it's working with the mounting. You know, the process behind is that we create a VFS, a virtual file system, on top, no matter if the backups are stored in a deduplication with a deduplication switched on of our software, or if you are using a HPE Store Once dedup appliance and use it via the integrated Catalyst interface. It's also possible to do a single file restore from there, because we create a virtual file system interface. And if you would like to dig deeper into the mounting process, show trace log, here you can follow the process. It's already done. It's already mounted. Click on OK, and here you see the same view as a simple file restore, because this is the mount point over here, and now we can drill deeper and restore whatever we would like to restore. Click on next, and now you have all the options for a file restore, on which client you would like to restore to. Would you like to find a new path for restoring? Would you like to override? Would you like to select the drive or have export options and so on? So these are all the options for the single file restore in this case. Yeah, if I click on cancel, it's doing the unmount process. It has been stopped. Okay, that's how it works with a single file restore. And now if it comes to configuration, I click on the configured OpenNebula host, click on new backup task, and then you need the data in this dialog box. You know the task type. The choice is huge because our support matrix is huge. Here's the OpenNebula option, but you do not have to select all this because we have a nice client browser. If you click on this arrow, then the client browser opens and you see all what's available on the OpenNebula host. And because there is our client installed, you not only see the OpenNebula environment over here, the virtual machines and so on, you also see the file system. You can do a Linux image backup for disaster recovery. And you see that there is a KVM as well installed, because OpenNebula is based on KVM. And you see all the virtual machines over here. 421, that's the new one, because we have restored to the 421. And we can also create a backup task now for this new virtual machine. I have selected it, click OK, and now we have this task name. Now we have the task type OpenNebula, the source type, that's the name of the virtual machine. Click OK. Well, and now here is a new backup task for the 421 virtual machine. I can do an immediate start. Let's do an immediate start and then do some, find a media pool and now start with this backup of this virtual machine. Or you can set a schedule or enter this task to a schedule so it can run automatically. Yeah? You see the sign, it's running currently. If you click on the backups, you will see that there is an active backup for this one, view mode, table view. Now you see this active task over here. Yeah, let's hop on the web UI, refresh. Now you see that it has been completed successfully. We can close this log. We can close this dialog box. Okay, and you see here that it has been restored completely successfully. Well, now where is the information? I have promised you to show the information. Now let's have a look at our homepage. This is our homepage, and from our homepage you have the navigation menu on the top, and here you find a lot of topics of our powerful backup software. You can find the download area if you would like to test our software in a 30 days trial period. We have the references, and here we have the technical documentation. That's important. Our wiki, and if you start with our wiki, here's the landing page. The most important thing, for instance, if you do a demo, and if you have a demo environment, a test environment, and would like to test our software, you have to make sure that you have the right versions and components installed. Then you have a look at the need to have a look at the support matrix, and here you will find our OpenNebula, and here you see the OpenNebula versions which are supported. I guess that's pretty up to date over here, and all the other stuff you will find the in our support matrix, where to run your backup server, where to set up the backup server. You can use /15, that's pretty current. You see Intel or IBM Power, IBM Z system. We support a lot of hardware architecture as well, and it's possible to run the backup server over here, or the GUI or the remote device server, and so on. If you scroll down, OES 2018 is possible, RHEL 8 is possible, Oracle, Linux, Debian, Ubuntu, Univention, Windows, it's all possible as a server over here. Yeah, with the core installation, you can only use the client because there are some functionalities missing. So if you would like to run the backup server on Windows 2019, you need the server edition, of course, yes. And if you now click on the documentation over here, you have the quick start. That's important. What are the hardware requirements? It's also depending, for instance, on if you use deduplication. If you use deduplication, you have to really have more CPU and RAM in your backup server or RDS. And we have the configuration 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, how to configure a easy backup. And then the detailed description of OpenNebula. Here are all our agents with separate pages. We have the OpenNebula over here, and how to create a backup, how to configure a restore. Everything I have shown you already in the live demo is available over here in the description. How to set the backup tasks, how to create a restore from here, from the GUI. That's all described in detail over here. Doing a single file restore, you realize it that we have already done pretty much the same. Now we are coming closer to the end, and I would like to talk about some expert functionality, expert information to provide you. And as I have told you, by default, OpenNebula restores to the same data store which was used for the backup. However, sometimes you have the request to restore to some other data store, and it is possible with our expert option in our GUI to set the path to another data store. So also this scenario is possible with our software, and we have taken into account that our customers need this functionality. So overall, I hope you all agree that SEP is definitely the best solution for all customers running OpenNebula environments. Well, Katrin, are you ready to take over?
Yes, of course. Hey, are you impressed of what you have heard until now? Then you might be interested in gaining more information about this powerful backup software. After our SEP specialist has talked a lot about a specific backup topic, during the next roundabout 4 minutes, I would like to give you a short overview of the general capabilities of SEP Sesam. I'm sure you will be impressed of what is really possible with this product. This is essentially based on 6 strategic columns. The first and most important topic is our huge support matrix. There is an agent available for almost every operating system, database, or application you can imagine. Market leaders as well as niche products, for example for mailing, Exchange or Copano. Even a lot of older versions are supported, because all old SEP clients are still compatible and usable with the latest SEP backup server, for example NetWare, or outdated Windows versions. The second strategic focus is our strong partnership with SAP. While being 2 German companies, we work together from SMB to enterprise, from Business One to S/4HANA. SEP has the most complete set of certified agents for the SAP portfolio, including NetWeaver running on Oracle or MaxDB, Linux or Windows, HANA or ASE, known as Sybase. Moreover, SEP not only supports simple HANA backup via the backend interface, but also functionalities like multi-tenancy, housekeeping, scale up, scale out, HANA Studio integration, disaster recovery, and efficient performance by parallel HANA backend channels for backup and recovery. Third, we focus on our partnership with HPE. Besides the perfect fit with our SAP partnership, this means that we step by step integrate deeper into the HPE portfolio. We just released our HPE certified Catalyst integration, including Catalyst Copy and Cloud Bank storage. More to come soon. As a fourth element, we are proud of our multi-hypervisor support. By supporting more than 8 hypervisors, we are a perfect fit into every virtual environment beyond VMware and Hyper-V, or in every multi-hypervisor infrastructure. Based on our Unix and Linux history, we have a strong focus on open source. This becomes apparent from our partnerships with Red Hat and SUSE, but also from the support matrix, where you can find agents for open source products like KVM, MariaDB, or Postgres. Last but not least, we see the market going cloud. With our Cloud Application Protection Service products, we help you to back up your Office 365, G Suite, Salesforce, or Microsoft Dynamics environment. With Office 365, we back up the full set of features like Exchange, SharePoint, OneDrive, public folders, and Teams. With SEP Sesam, it is possible to run completely in AWS, replicate to a public cloud via S3, or simply use Catalyst Cloud Bank storage and let HPE Store Once do the replication work. All these topics are covered in separate videos. Therefore, we can proudly state that SEP Sesam is the most powerful backup software. Well, if you are now interested in knowing more about SEP, you can find detailed information about market, sales, product and company on our webpage. Profound technical information can be found in our large wiki online documentation. If there are any questions left, please do not hesitate to contact us via email to sales@sepsoftware.com. So, I'm pretty sure that I'll see you next time when you're back on Tube to boost your SEP knowledge again.